Everybody to the December CDTA board meeting. We do have a quorum. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda in the packets, please? Motion Ms. Nugent, second Ms. Figueroa. Discussion on the agenda, any additions or changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved, thank you. Our minutes from our last meeting on October 25th are in our packets and run from page 2 through page 13, it looks like. I have a motion to accept the minutes. Motion. Mr. Pashon, thank you.
Second.
Mr. Sperano, thank you. Any corrections, alterations, or adjustments to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand approved. Thank you. We have 3 employee recognitions today and 1 recognition for Amtrak on their Empire service. I'm going to take the 3 employees. Carm's going to take Amtrak. And we're going to start with a 25-year service award for Lou Norwood.
I suggest we flip-flop because Lou is a minute late. He's running hot.
All right. Because we didn't know we were starting on time.
Remember, 0 to 5 minutes late is on time.
Darlene Mackay, payroll administrator, 30-year service award. You're welcome. Hello, Tom. Good, how are you?
Very well.
My new home. Tennessee. But we'll get to that. Darlene Mackay came to us from the banking world. She was a bank teller before making the switch to CDTA. Friends of hers that were already working here told her this was the place to work. Darlene listened and joined the ranks as a telephone information operator in 1987. She spent about 5 years there before moving to Treasury, then on to the maintenance department, then to the transportation department, and finally in 2003 she settled in the finance department where she's been making sure paychecks get out on time every week. Darlene says she likes to do something different each day, and CDTA gave her the opportunity to do just that. She says the best part of CDTA is there is always opportunity to grow. She's stayed here for 30 years because of the people. She says her coworkers are like family, making it easy to come to work every day. Things are a little different now than they were when Darlene started 30 years ago. She remembers a time when smoking was allowed in the office, and you would look down the hall and see a cloud of smoke. Smoking in the office isn't the only thing that's changed. Darlene says technology has changed dramatically. If you can believe it, and I can. Payroll was done by hand, not with computer software. Documents were handwritten or typed on a typewriter. There were no printers or websites. And when she worked in telephone information, she looked up schedules in a binder and had to read a map book instead of Googling or just checking cdta.org. In her free time, Darlene and her husband Tom, who spent 40 years with us at CDTA, they like to camp, snowshoe, and just be outdoors. They also spend a lot of time with their children and grandchildren, 9 grandchildren. Soon Darlene will be able to do those things whenever she wants because she's retiring next month. Congratulations. She and Tom will be moving to Tennessee for a slower paced life and to enjoy the great outdoors. Darlene, thank you for your 3 decades of service. We appreciate your loyalty, your hard work, and tell it like it is attitude.
I get you in trouble.
Congratulations and good luck
Thank you.
in retirement.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. News here. All right.
So now you're both going to be retired?
Yeah.
You'll be exchanging gunfire in about 45 days.
Last time for that.
It's been a wonderful year and a half.
My wife got a pistol permit when I retired.
Lou Norwood, 25-year service award, Albany bus operator.
I didn't know if I should come up. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lou started working at CDTA in 1992 as a star operator. Spent about a year there before making the switch to fixed route operations in Albany, where he has been ever since. Lou says he always wanted to drive a bus. He was in an office job before coming to CDTA and thought driving the bus would be more interesting. He was also encouraged by a few bus operators to join the team. Lou currently drives Route 113 in New Scotland Avenue and Route 18 Delaware Avenue, which are two of our main trunk routes that serve Slingerlands, Del Mar, and downtown Albany. Lou's been driving those routes for 10 years. He says he likes it because they're busy runs and he loves his customers. Lou has spent the last 2.5 decades with us for a variety of reasons, but says camaraderie with his fellow bus operators is the main reason he stayed. He says it's a supportive and fun environment, which makes it easy to come to work every day. In his free time, Lou enjoys bowling, traveling, spending time with his 4 children and 5 grandchildren. He says they keep him young and they like riding the bus. We asked Lou what's on his horizon for his career at CDTA, and he says he has a few more years on the road before he decides to park the bus for good. Lou, congratulations on a quarter-century of service with us. Thank you. We appreciate all your hard work and what you do out on the road for our customers. Thank you.
Stay for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, LaRonda Donnelly, Albany bus operator, 30 years of service. LaRonda started her career at CDTA in 1987 as a star operator. She spent 4 months there before moving to fixed route operations in Troy, before then coming to Albany. When LaRonda joined CDTA team, she was 25 years old. She says it was difficult at first because she was so young. Getting up early and working long hours was very challenging. She says it did get easier over time with experience and the drivability of new buses. She drives the Route 100, which is our mid-city belt that serves downtown Albany and Albany Medical Center campus. She enjoys the 100, but says like most bus operators, she has a favorite route, and hers is the number 13 on New Scotland Avenue. LaRonda attributes her longevity to her great friends at CDTA. She says it's like a big family here. Everyone is supportive of one another. She also notes the company benefits are a nice perk too. What she loves most about her job is that every day is different and you will never get bored. She especially loves the people, her coworkers, and her customers. LaRonda's favorite customers are young kids. She says the kids are always excited to be on the bus, and she loves singing Wheels on the Bus to them when they Recently, a daycare class got on the bus, and the whole group sang Wheels on the Bus. They liked it so much that they sent her a thank you note. In her free time, LaRonda enjoys working out, cooking, and spending time with her son and her husband of 25 years. Her plans don't include retirement just yet. She's just young. She says she had a few more years of drive time in her, but when she retires, she's looking forward to sleeping and resting. We thank you for your 30 years of service.
Thank you.
We're better because of what you do.
Thank you. what you
Depends on what you
say. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. When I first came to CDTA, there was a young man. He was young himself when he first started. This man would not hire me for nothing because I was small, petite. He didn't think I could handle the bus. So I had to go over his head to get up in here. And that man is Mr. Collins sitting right there. I said to him, see how far I came? And I am the only one left out of my whole class. There's nobody else here. I'm the only one that made it this far.
I had no doubts.
Yeah. But thank you.
Well, if you haven't figured it out, these are three, I call them fan favorites. LaRonda and I have known each other for a long, long time. I call her a janitor lady because she had the janitor. Long story what the janitor trick is here, but bus operators keep the drivers room area clean, and she had her own little cart and horn. I come in, she'd beep the horn at me, and just a fun-loving, good-hearted person who brings that out onto the street when she's driving for us. So, we win. We win every time LaRonda Donnelly is driving. We win. Lou Norwood is another guy just like that. He might not be as vocal and outwardly looking happy as LaRonda, but another guy, he just gets the job done. Comes to work every day. He doesn't shy away from the hard work. Dave read the routes he's operating on. Those are high volume. I mean, you're on your toes all the time, but he doesn't go shying away from that kind of work. And then last but not least, the reason why everybody clapped for her, I told her, I said, I know you. I know you're can be kind of a little mean and ordinary, in your younger days, but they're clapping for you because you give them their paychecks. but the story there is, I don't think we've ever missed a paycheck here. Ever. And the reason for that are people like Darlene. They make it their job, their business, their livelihood. So, these are the people, as we say all the time, the foundation of the company. All I get to do is, represent what they do and, hopefully give you sort of a little picture. But there's 700 Darlene's, LaRonda's, and Lou, all working together to make this all happen. It's great to see them all doing so well and being recognized. Although, sorry, that some of them are leaving us.
23 days.
I wish my paycheck were.
I can't tell you who's ever done that. There's a few other things. We may not pay people, but we.
Amtrak?
Right. This is a resolution that we're going to ask the board to adopt and enter into the minutes. Whereas Amtrak is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its Empire service, which runs every day between New York City and CDTA's Rensselaer Rail Station, with additional service to Buffalo and Niagara Falls. And whereas the Empire Corridor stretches along 460 miles of track, connecting cities and towns to economic vitality throughout the state of New York. And whereas Amtrak has grown this service over the last 50 years from 7 trains daily to almost 30 trains daily, making travel convenient, safe, and affordable for all New Yorkers. And whereas the Empire Service is a transportation staple for the residents of the capital region, connecting people and businesses to New York City and other destinations across our state. And whereas Amtrak has been a valued partner to CDTA and the anchor tenant at the Rensselaer Rail Station since it opened in 2002. And whereas Rensselaer Rail Station is now the 9th busiest rail station in the Amtrak service network. And whereas this milestone anniversary clearly illustrates the advanced transportation network and the many mobility options available in the capital region and throughout New York. Now therefore be resolved that the board members, staff, and employees of the Capital District Transportation Authority recognize and congratulate Amtrak on the 50th anniversary of Empire Service. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution, in addition to being spread upon the minutes of the authority, be suitably framed and presented to the management of Amtrak.
And I have a motion on the resolution.
So moved.
Ms. Nugent, thank you.
Second.
Second, Ms. Figueroa, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We thought this would be a nice idea. Amtrak, just last Monday, I think the 4th, they had an event at the rail station to recognize their own milestone of 50 years. We were able to go. I was out of town, but we were invited to go, which was nice. And we thought it would be a nice, especially with our relationship with them and being in the transportation business like us, we thought it would be nice to recognize their service milestone. So thank you. Committee reports. Performance Oversight Committee, Ms. Figueroa.
Mr. Chairman, the Performance Oversight Committee met on December 6th here at the main office of CDTA. And we have several awards, contract awards on the agenda today. First one being an award for a contract to janitorial services at the rail station. The contract for cleaning services at the Rensselaer Rail Station has expired. We issued an invitation for bids, the scope of which provided for daily cleaning of all the common areas of the building, removing trash on the top deck and seasonal items. The lowest price received was from Complete Building Solutions Incorporated. We have interviewed the vendor, checked their references, and we find them qualified to perform the service. At this time, this vendor has held the contract in the past and has had satisfactory work. At this time, we need a motion to award a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for janitorial services to Complete Building Solutions Incorporated of Gilderland, New York, in the amount not to exceed $86,900 per year for a total contract amount of $434,500.
Thank you. I have a motion on resolution number 66, awarding a contract for janitorial services at the Rensselaer Rail Station.
So moved.
Mr. Sparana.
I'll second.
Ms. Valentico, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the award contract for snow removal. The contract for snow removal services at 2 of our parking rides has expired. We issued an invitation for bids, the scope of which provided for snow plowing, salting, and snow and ice removal services of the designated parking areas, sidewalks, shelters, parking entranceways, and travel lanes. The lowest price received was from City Mark Striping, LLC. We've interviewed the vendor, checked their references, and we find them qualified to perform the service. City Mark also holds the contract for removing snow at many of our shelters and at 85 Watervliet Avenue. So at this time, we are asking for a motion to award a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for snow removal services to City Mark Striping, LLC of Albany, New York, in the amount not to exceed $22,450 per year. With yearly CPI increases, the estimated 5-year value is $130,000.
Thank you. We have a motion on resolution number 67, awarding a contract for snow removal at the Rensselaer County Park and Ride lots.
So moved.
Ms. Nugent, thank you. Second.
Second.
Mr. Sparana, thank you. Any discussion on snow removal?
Are these the ones, one on Route 4 and one over here?
These are the 2 that we own.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is carried. Thank you.
Okay, next item is approval of a change order for Rensselaer Rail Station repairs. We have discussed this throughout the past year, and the staff has been making a number of repairs to the lower levels of the parking structure of the Rensselaer Rail Station. The board approved this work in December of 2015 and March of 2017. At the time of the most recent board approval, it was discussed that the project costs were an estimate, $260,000, and that work would be billed on an actual time and materials basis. The work is now taking place, and most of it's been completed, I believe. Additional deterioration was discovered, and our engineer flagged them for additional high priority repairs. Due to the fact that the shoring for the garage was already on site, cost savings was realized by continuing the project and immediately making the repairs. Our contractor was allowed to proceed based upon the same pricing structure of the existing contract, which was the cost of time and materials plus a 15% markup. The work was completed and added $103,000 due to the additional repairs. So at this time, we need a motion to approve a change order for repairs to the Rensselaer Rail Station parking structure with BCI Construction of Albany, New York, in an amount of $103,000.
I have a motion on resolution number 68, approval of a change order for the Rensselaer Rail Station parking garage repairs.
So
Mr. Roy, thank you. Ms. Figueroa, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the resolution.
Just a couple of points of background and additional information. This is, as I think some of you will remember, this is really the work that we did underneath the deck in the lower levels to shore up the facility so that the deck repairs could be made and would be effective. Frankly, you don't just put a new roof on the house if you have a foundation that needs attention. When we did that, the contract, I think we all acknowledged that it was an estimate, and we fully expected that we would be back. We didn't know if it would hit the change order levels, but this did hit the required levels for board approval of the change order. We have the authority to have the work go on and then come back to that's what we're doing, come back to the board for the change order. So Mark and Chris can answer any detailed questions, but this is really the work that was done. We refer to it internally as the corables, but it's a heck of a lot more than corables.
right, and the limit is anything over $100,000 comes to the board. So it just was over.
Well, it's actually
is it over more?
It's 100 or 20%, whichever
Oh, that's
is
what it was. Okay.
greater.
All right.
great.
So either way, we make the threshold.
It's good business.
Right, absolutely.
So was it 361,000 altogether?
Yeah, the two numbers. And work is substantially complete. There's still some work. Actually, work is complete down below, pretty much. The work up top, if you've been over at the rail station, it looks done. It's all striped. There's just some minor finish up work to be done, and then final striping. We'll net out about 20 additional spots. 40.
This phase is done. There's another phase in the spring.
Yeah.
Just pick it up after the new constructions.
It'll be done.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Urges.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in favor, none opposed, with 1 refusal. Motion is approved. Thank you.
All right, the next contract is for mobile tourism application. A key component of our trolley service is to ensure customers would be able to distinguish between regular route, shuttle, or trolley services. TransFinder, which is based in Schenectady, has been a partner of CDTA and developed a mobile application that features real-time vehicle information and detailed points of interest. TransFinder developed the application at their cost, and based on our experience and knowledge of the tools on the market, there are no mobile applications that include all these elements, and certainly nothing close to the development price point, This time we need a motion to award a 1-year sole source contract for mobile application services with TransFinder of Schenectady, New York for $25,000.
I have a motion on resolution number 69, awarding a sole source contract for a mobile tourism application.
So
motion.
Ms. Valentico and Mr. Pashon, thank you. Discussion on the resolution?
Just another little background point, TransFinder based in Schenectady, local company, does, their primary work is in the school bus industry, mapping and scheduling software. They've become a very interesting and valued partner to us. They are a financial sponsor in the trolley, and this was made available to us. They did all the development work for the app, and now for us to continue it into season 2 requires a modest payment. We think it's fair and reasonable. That's why it's a sole source award. I should also say that on the trolley itself, in my monthly report, you'll see that it was intended to be a seasonal service, so it's been running through the fall. We met with people from Metroplex, who are the primary partner there, and have agreed that it will end on New Year's Eve. It will be his last day of operation, then it'll come back when weather returns, so sometime late spring. So all in all, a valuable partnership. We're looking at ways to expand the service to make it more recognizable. The problem with it right now is not the problem. It runs 3 or 4 days a week, limited time, so people see it, and then they don't see it. They want to use it, but they're not sure about it. So we need to find a way to make it a little bit more structured and reliable, and to blend it into the tourism community, visitor community, all of which is pretty alive and well. So John's working with partners on that.
So with this, can you see where the trolleys are on?
Oh yeah, and you can
see what business.
You can see what businesses, for example, Johnny's Restaurant, I see that. So if you're new or maybe even not so new to the area, you can take the trolley and get off right there and walk into Johnny's, have a drink or have dinner. Or go to
Is it
Bob's.
on?
No, it's called City Finder. It's their own product. We're the first in the country to have it.
Is it free?
Yes.
Free to you to use.
Free other than the $25,000.
Unfortunately, in this world, nothing is free.
But it's free to the customer.
Free to
Yes,
the
it
customer. There are a lot of things that are free to the customer that, in my mind, it's part of our continuing presence in the community. Part of our effort to try to make our services a little bit more user-friendly.
So this applies to Saratoga and the Schenectady and.
I encourage you to take a peek at the app.
And Albany, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, Troy.
Yep. We're working on it.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, resolution's carried. Thank you.
Okay, next we have an award for a contract for employee life insurance. Our insurance broker, Rosie Kiernan, recently accepted proposals from insurance carriers for life insurance services as our current contract expires with Lincoln on December 31st. Four firms submitted quotes, all of which were rated as A or better. Standard Insurance provided a 3-year proposal with the lowest price. At this time, we need a motion to award a 3-year contract to Standard Life Insurance Company of White Plains, New York, with a cost not to exceed $300,000.
I have a motion on resolution number 70, awarding a contract for life insurance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sporana, Ms. Figueroa, thank you. Discussion on the resolution?
Is this for the union people or for everybody?
Everybody. It's an employee benefit piece.
I think it's detailed there. Death benefit, if you would die, before you retire, if you die.
When you retire.
Oh, this continues on after.
It's substantially lower, but it doesn't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark.
It said all 4 proposals were rated as A or better. I don't know. A in college is good. A for certain financial instruments is not so good. Was any of the other proposals rated significantly better?
Those are insurance, right?
I believe there are 2 A pluses and 2 A's, which are both considered good ratings.
Which one was this?
Which one? I'm sorry.
A plus or A, the one we're awarding to?
Yeah, but I think it was an A plus, right, Joe?
To be honest, I'm not sure which one. They were all A rated, so.
Well, I guess, again, I'm a little out of my league too. Is there a significant difference between A and A plus? No.
No. And typically, road and procurement will only give us A-rated companies when they're presented.
So it's not like a bond company where AAA is the best and it's a little different out there.
That was my real question.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is carried, thank you.
Okay. Next, finally, transfer of buses in Bergen County. Sorry about this. When buses exceed their usual life, the Federal Transit Administration allows us to transfer the vehicles to another grantee. Broome County Public Transportation Department, an FDA grantee, contacted CTA about acquiring any pending bus retirements to help them with their vehicle needs. We are in the process of retiring 7 40-foot Nova buses since we received our Gillig bus order, 2018 Gillig bus order. These buses were put into service in 1999 and have met their FTA required 12-year useful life. There is no federal interest remaining in these vehicles, and there is no cost to CTA if we transfer these vehicles. At this time, we need a motion to approve a transfer of 7 retired 40-foot Nova buses to Broome County Public Transportation Department for continued revenue service.
I have a motion on resolution number 71, transfer of vehicles to Broome County Public Transportation Department.
So moved.
Ms. Figueroa, thank you. Corey, thank you. Mr. Bixby. Discussion on the resolution?
With utmost respect to the buses that have served us so well for all these years, Broome County will get some more use out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have used our buses before, right?
They're up to 25.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and just a little information on useful life. Jackie picked up on this, and I give her a lot of credit because does that mean that they're not useful anymore? Well, obviously they're very useful. The term useful life of the federal government really is tied to funding. We cannot fund a new bus, for example, that's 7 years old. It has to be used for 12 years or there's a mileage 500,000 miles. So the term useful life does not mean that it is useless. As Corey said, they are very useful. They were well maintained. Yes, it is an older looking vehicle. But they'll be painted Broome County colors, and they will use them as long as they possibly can. It's a system that's had some issues. They're rebuilding slowly. It's a county-run system. If it's 25, I can tell you that about half of their fleet is older CDTA buses. So I guess you can take some sense. We take some sense of pride knowing that they're still operational. But as we know, older vehicles a little harder and a little more expensive to maintain. But they're coming out of that downward cycle. They're buying new buses and slowly but surely rebuilding Broome County. So we're just happy to help them.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Broome County.
I knew that.
I think for all intents and purposes, CDTA's equity is gone from these buses, right? I mean,
I don't know.
There's probably value to them, but
yeah. But as far as the federal government is concerned, the state, the federal and state governments are concerned, we transfer them, for the ceremonial whatnot.
if these are the kinds of things, and we see it on the disposition report when we dispose of fixed assets, if somebody doesn't take them, historically somebody would bid on it and might pay $500 for a bus.
yeah.
So, if we can give it to a system that's going to continue to use it, even though we don't get any money for it, it's definitely fulfilled its service life to us. And
we're still doing our duty to the taxpayers of New York State.
Right.
Sure.
Public transit, if it's being used for public transit, then being scrapped.
Yep.
And if you go to Binghamton, you'll see that a lot of the buses, even if they've been painted, they will still say CDTA under it. So you get our name out there.
How
Well,
do
they transfer the drivers in the
Drop them down. Or, depends on land availability, we either drop them down or they come up and pick them up. We do a lot of this kind of thing, you'd be surprised. Sheriff Apple has a bus that he has turned into a display for.
Mobile jail
It's
cell.
a mobile jail cell, and he brings kids on board the bus and says, you don't wanna go here. The Albany Police Department has a bus, that they've, the Star bus that they've turned into a display. The ORDA, the Olympic Regional Development Authority, for many years, was the Broome County, transferred buses, and skiers would always come back commenting, I saw one of your buses, or I saw a truck, or I saw something of the sort that said CDTA on it, what do you guys do up there? So, so long as it passes all the checkoffs, and what, Lance and his guys do is, we give them the best of what we're retiring. And they go through it and make sure that we're giving them the best available vehicles. Bus is not all that reliable, we don't think it's gonna be reliable, we're not gonna transfer that.
Does the authority have a formal disposition policy when it comes to its assets?
Yep. Amanda and Stacy can give you the detail on that.
Once a year, once a year, I think we get a report that we need to approve at the board level for anything that we have disposed of. So, staff actually works very hard to get something for things, even if there's not a lot of value to them. So they go out on, I think on eBay, the stuff is posted for sale. I mean, if nobody puts in a bid, it may be given away, but we try to recover anything we can from that disposed property list. But ultimately, it comes to the board, and the board approves the disposition after the fact.
Stace, not to put you on the spot, top of your head, last disposition report value.
Last year was a lower year. I think it was in the 30s, $30,000. This year, I'm guessing will be higher, even though we did a lot of transfers.
Yep. It's a lot of computers, old computers.
Right. We don't actually sell those, but come to performance next month and hear all about it when I talk surplus sale.
Sorry. Sometimes all these subject areas, I struggle.
So I'm not sure what the timing on all this is, and I bring this up just because I was just recently involved in Toys for Tots, and speaking of the CEO of this region, they were looking for ways to transport toys, jackets, blankets, etc. to Broome County, and for them it's a huge expense. I don't know if there's a way to partnership with, maybe it's not Toys for Tots, maybe it's another organization that is looking for, ways to transfer items from our region to the state or down to Broome County.
When you hear of these things, just put them in touch with us. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd like to think that we know everything that's going on, but we obviously don't. But yeah, that's an easy one. That could have just been put on a bus that was headed to Broome County.
Absolutely.
Not hard.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is carried. Thank you.
Dave, are you doing the audit committee portion of this? On the agenda it says you are, so.
Happy to. So the audit committee, Sarah Matrose provided the internal audit monthly report to the committee. Work completed included issuing the drug and alcohol compliance draft, working with safety to develop an audit plan, and attending various training events. Work in progress includes the Davis-Bacon audit and an annual risk assessment. And if anyone has any questions, I'm sure Sarah could answer them. Investment committee report, I met with Mike and Phil and Bob Hennis at 11:15 this morning to review the securities in our portfolio that were either maturing or nearing maturity in the next quarter. And we made the decision that we would take the money out of the investments that CDTA needs to reimburse itself, and then essentially invest the remaining securities in 1 year best yielding treasury probably, or a CD depending on what the best rates are. So We will have a written report that I'll get out to the board as soon as my ghostwriter gets it to me. Any questions on either audit or investment committee? Okay.
Okay, so, the rest of my report here is the administrative discussion items that we had. The annual facilities update, Chris Destiny, gave an update on major internal facilities, work completed over the past year. Projects included the Albany bathroom and locker room renovation, Rensselaer Rail Station Corbel repairs, as we've talked about, the Rensselaer Rail Station wall repairs, the top deck replacement at the rail station, and operations, renovation, and design work. Chris, I don't know if you needed to add anything to that, or
No,
if you
I
have
think
any
that-
questions. Go ahead.
I think that covers it.
Okay, all right. The fleet inspection annual report, Lance Zarcone gave the annual fleet inspection report. The Transit Resource Center has completed its annual fleet maintenance audit. Key findings were that A defects stayed the same at 23, continuing a 9-year downward or level trend with no significant outliers in particular division, and I will let Lance explain what an A defect is. Total defects are down from 286 to 244, with a total defect average of 3.5 defects per bus compared to last year's 4.1 defects per bus. The audit included positive results with facility inspections, and only one sampled preventative maintenance inspection was not completed on time. It was early, not late. Going forward, we will focus our proactive approach to quality assurance inspections, predictive and preventative maintenance, and implementing dedicated staff to address body conditions of our fleet. And Lance, I don't know if you do want to explain to people in case they have questions on what an A defect is.
Sure, an A defect is a critical defect that will take the vehicle out of service. A few examples: a flat tire, something as simple as a headlight, a tail light being out, a trip hazard, sharp edge. The list is pretty extensive. It's 26 items that make up the A defect list.
Thank you.
And B did a couple of examples of B's.
B's, everything else. Yeah, body damage. Could be basically a lot of body damage, interior damage, things of that nature.
All right, but nothing that affects the safety of the vehicle.
No, but
right.
either defect is addressed when it's notified or when it's found for those in service.
I saw something on the internet the other day where front wheel and tire came off a bus. I think it was New York City.
Oh, really? Well,
it wasn't pretty.
No. Not
but I know you guys check all the lug. Every time I'm down there, somebody's checking lug nuts.
We do. We have a procedure in place when the tires are changed, the lug nuts are tightened, and then the vehicle is brought back in 2 days later for a retorque to make sure the wheels and lugs are tight. Everything looks good, and then they're actually torque sealed, which is marked off to make sure that they're basically tight.
And just for people to understand, this is basically an audit that we choose to do, that is not required for us to do. We have somebody from outside come in and check what we're doing. Yep. So obviously you have your routine in maintenance, but then we also make sure that somebody's coming in and checking us, right?
Big report card to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to.
Okay, thank you. So then we had the risk management and workers' compensation quarterly report from Mike Collins. Procedures require a quarterly review of the adequacy of the risk management self-insurance account and the workers' compensation self-insurance account. The committee has determined that our accounts are adequate at this time, and Amanda can provide any details on that if you have any questions. Okay. And then we had the financial monthly manager report. Mike Collins gave the financial report. Mortgage recording tax was down 2% for the month and 1% for the year. Rensselaer Rail Station revenue was up 1% for the month, but still down 4% for the year. Professional services are over budget due to advertising and training. Purchase transportation was over budget due to 2 additional work days in the period. Liability claims were under budget because of fewer no-fault and property claims than in prior months. We were we have a satisfactory cash flow position at this time. Mike did indicate that we're temporarily drawing down from our line of credit as we wait for our next round of state payments. Any questions for Mike on that, or anything you need to add to that, Mike?
You got it.
Okay.
Just a note on that, that's the 5-year capital program that provides additional capital money from the state of New York. We're having some, and not just us, we're just having some difficulties
Squeezing money.
Springing the money. That the board, there's all sorts of administrative steps. You might recall just a couple of months ago, the board passed a resolution to accept the money. It's just this back and forth. The wheels of government sometimes turn very slowly, but kudos to the board for putting in place a method for us to obtain money quickly to the line of credit. It's good, and sometimes people look at that in government with a sort of a sly eye. It's just good business practice because it takes you through this ebb and flow of cash flow problems. And without that, we'd be borrowing probably from ourselves, from all those others, which is not, in my mind, the way we want to run the road.
When is our fuel contract up? You know, Stacy?
Sure. It goes to the spring of next year, but we've already actually got the next one in place to go through about May, June of 2019.
Right. Well, we revisit that. We have Stacy, Phil, and a bunch of other people who sort of keep a watchful eye on fuel prices. We revisit that as appropriate. If prices start to, or really we're looking 2 years out now. Prices are coming down. We'll lock it in. But we have decreasing prices for the next 2 fiscal years.
Correct.
What are we at now, right this minute? Anybody know?
268.
I believe it goes to
209 or something like that. It's going to.
It goes down to $1.88, something like that.
Yes.
So we're in the right place.
No, 209 is last number.
209, sorry. Cool.
Okay. And finally, monthly non-financial report. Chris Desney gave the non-financial report. Total ridership was up 2% for the month and remains flat for the year. Star ridership was down 1% for the month and year. On-time performance was 71%, and there was 1 PMI not on time. Missed trips were that was the early one, I believe, right? Missed trips were at 37 this month. Mean distance between service interruptions was 24,610 miles. Scheduled work was at 86%. There were 21 preventable and 43 non-preventable accidents, and 91% of customer complaints were closed within 10 days. The website page views were at 1,055,184. We did not have an executive session, and I believe that concludes my report.
Any questions for Ms. Figueroa?
The star ridership was down 1%. Is that the ridership or the trips? Did you get more people on the?
That's people. Boardings.
Oh, okay.
If you noticed, everything is kind of leveled off a bit, flat, kind of bouncing, maybe downward a little bit. It's pretty much across the board. And
pretty much across the country.
Across the country, it's worse. In my report, you'll see, I personally am not happy with that, and I can tell you the staff's not. But there's only so many things you can do. Kind of locked in with our budget. There's only the resources are what the resources are. It's not to say that the region is fully served. So that's what staff is working on here as we start talking about the new budget and ways that we can realign some services to be more productive or more fruitful. But I would expect that flat line to continue, as Chris always cautioned me. bouncing within that 2% margin. It's really not changing much. Not going down, it's also not going up.
Okay, thank you. Planning and Stakeholder Relations Committee report, Mr. Sperano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on December 7th at noon time. Mike presented the preliminary budget forecast for fiscal year 2019, as the state requires us to have one approved by the end of the year. The budget is a forecast and a starting point to develop the complete budget based on everyday happenings. We expect our operating needs to be at least $87 million, a 3% increase this year. We can talk about that. It's cost of living, it's cost of standard, it's not a big deal. We had some unknowns right now, including the state operating assistance and the federal maintenance. The governor's called for 0, 0, and reduced, but Farm is pretty good going up to the Capitol to try and squeeze another $1 or $2 out of them. We'll see. Again, like I just said, we'll continue our legislative visits and with our advocacy team, which would be our Lisa and her group. Over the next few months, the committee will provide options as the budget development process continues. And we are open at any time to any questions or suggestions about the budget. Even though a lot of us aren't budget people, sometimes an idea pops in your head. So, at this time, the committee recommends approving the preliminary budget for next year to meet the state requirements.
Could I have a motion on resolution number 72, approving the preliminary operating budget for fiscal year 2019? Mr. Lahat, thank you. Ms. Nugent, thank you. Discussion on the resolution.
This is a requirement of the State Comptroller's Office. It's really part of the data building process that goes on throughout the state. The software system is known as Paris. Some of you may be familiar with it. And you enter this, we'll submit it. It'll be entered into the system effective January 1, and it allows for the data building to begin throughout the state fiscal year. So think of it more as a data transmission. Adopting a budget, because we're not adopting a budget, we're just approving, and it requires board approval. Is it the budget? It's probably not even close.
I guess it doesn't really matter, but do we know what the other upstate properties are looking at for?
They're all because you don't know. They're all submitting budgets with a significant deficit, which is pretty standard at this point, because if you don't know or aren't confident in your forecast, you tend to submit a budget that doesn't match revenue to expenses. But yeah, they're all submitting the same.
Our decisions yet to come.
Yeah.
Mark?
I just have a couple of questions. This fiscal year is April to March, is that correct? The projected shortfall is 5% of the current budget, which is substantial. I noticed the big items in terms of expenses are workers' comp and health benefits, with big percentage increases, and also purchase, transportation, and parts, tires, oil. Is this just being conservative in the projections, or are there reasons for those increases of 8% or more?
Healthcare is not. I wouldn't really call that conservative. That's pretty close to reality. Purchase transportation has been sort of a really the experience over the last couple of years. What else am I missing?
Well, some of this is conservative budgeting.
And some is conservative budgeting. You're way out time-wise. You know, this will be part of the planning discussions over the next 3 or 4 months. It's basically, it's not, I'll use an unscientific term, kind of whittle away at this. But, you know, the healthcare costs, you know, we've addressed, I think, as a, well, not this entire group, but we've addressed it about a year ago in a board retreat. We'll have discussions about it. I'm polling for dates to talk about the collective bargaining agreement and the process. Obviously, you know, the healthcare component, employee healthcare is a major factor. It's a big ticket item. And there's only so many issues that we can talk about, you know, wages and benefits, basically. So, you know, we'll get into all that, talk about some of the options that we may or may not want to consider.
And how does the projected shortfall compare to previous years?
About the same. Talking 4 to 6 million.
We've been able to close it in the past.
Oh yeah. I don't think anybody is really, you know, no one's throwing up red flags. But you just don't know. So rather than put a number in that is, you know, optimistic, you tend to, at this point in time, pick the number that's less optimistic.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor on approving the draft operating budget?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is carried. Thank you.
Okay, continuing on, Chris provided the determination and the findings of the land acquisition process for the Uncle Sam Transit Center. A public hearing was held on November 16th in Troy. 6 members of the public attended, 3 spoke. Some issues were raised about the engineering of the structure, cost, and traffic control. And there was a question about noise too, but I think that was addressed and there wasn't any concern. There's still more steps. This is not the final thing, unfortunately. We still have to bring out prices again and again, even though it's eminent domain, it's you know, it's enough to make me want to get up on top of the bridge of the garage and jump off. But anytime, any point. The committee recommends approving the land acquisition public hearing determination and finding for the transit center. Is that something has to be approved?
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of the formal process. All right. But I have a motion on resolution number 73, approval of determination of findings for Uncle Sam Transit Center under Article 2 of the New York State Eminent Domain Procedure Law.
So moved.
Ms. Nugent, thank you. Second, Ms. Figueroa. Thank you. Discussion on the resolution? Mark?
I just wanted to note for anybody who wasn't at the committee meeting, that the members of the public who spoke are actually the property owner who's been holding up the process and 2 associates.
That was it. They were the only ones speaking.
Yep. And you know, just backing up here, this is a painstakingly detailed process. So, you know, we need a board resolution to hold a public hearing, or excuse me, to schedule a public hearing. We need a board approval now to accept the findings of the hearing, which are limited, obviously. We didn't hear or see or shown anything that's new, different, and we'll be back to you with more resolutions. At the end of the day, this may be resolved off this process with come to the table negotiation that would be favorable. We would appreciate that. We would rather do it that way. But we must continue along this process in the event that that does not happen.
Just a quick process question. Has the state mandated environmental review been completed already, or will it be in the future?
It's complete.
So all that's parallel. We're acting as if we were going to break ground at some point in time in the future. That came up. we are moving forward as if we're going to break ground. Not actually.
Before Joe jumps on.
Well, I watched Chris, make sure he's okay.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna say the same thing I did last month. I think this is an important project. It's a big part of our BRT project. And even if for some reason that weren't to go through, this is a huge positive for downtown Troy. And I will say from the labor side of things that we have a lot of employees, bus drivers that are expecting to use a facility, a nice facility with nice restrooms that we could have been opening around this time of year, and now because of other things, we're looking at sometime next year. So this has really been a long, drawn-out process, and it's a good thing for Troy. Hopefully we'll get there.
And I would encourage labor to do what they can in the community to be advocating for a successful resolution of this.
And just for information, I was with DOT back in the 60s when we started the interstates. Eminent domain was eminent domain, and that was it. You didn't like it too bad. And of course, they've expanded things, so we're not killing people anymore. But it's typical of the state. We ran way over here when we could have been in the middle. So.
And this is a little different. I mean, obviously, plowing through a highway. This is a person's property. We're proposing, for all the good that this will do, we're proposing to be on a sliver of property that landowner owns. So it's a little different. It's a little sensitive. We appreciate that. We appreciate the sensitivity. We're willing to pay, an adequate sum of money. Going through the process. We'll get there. Might just take a little longer.
The projected schedule now?
Chris, I can't
yeah, we discussed this at committee. The current schedule is that over the winter, we place the bid documents, out for letting, for construction with breaking ground in the spring. Again, the caveat is barring any other unforeseen circumstances.
As it plays into Jamie's question, so what we do is we're going to line up everything. So if all goes well, come springtime, we will be ready to put the shovel in the ground. So assuming we have an arrangement, shovel goes in the ground. But if we don't have an arrangement until June or July, we're still ready to put a shovel in the ground. Short notice. So I think we're doing. This is due diligence to its finest.
But just to expand on that, the completion would be then sometime next year this time. Right?
I think before the snow flies is possible, but very aggressive. It depends on what kind of schedules the bidders and the contractors come up with. We have an internal projected schedule, but the reality is what the contractors feel that they can actually complete. So we would like to see it this time next year. Do we want to cut a ribbon in the middle of December? I don't know, but we may or may not be able to do that anyway. But that's the goal.
Chris, if we pass this now and approve this now, what are the next steps with regard to the eminent domain process? And
sure,
are there timelines on us or him or?
Well, as of right this second, there's nothing for the board to do.
Other than approve
this. But behind the scenes, what's happening is our sub-consultants who are experts in real estate and eminent domain proceedings in particular are actually collecting all the appropriate documentation, which actually includes process timelines, the types of things that an administrative law judge would look at to look at the case and determine that the just compensation is adequate. We file the tax maps with the county clerk. Once all that's approved, we put the money in escrow. Basically, it's there to be picked up.
But there'll be a board resolution somewhere in there. Probably.
Well, technically, I'm not aware of anything else that requires a board resolution given that current path. But as we've seen over the last couple of years, the projected path isn't always what actually happens. At a minimum, we'll come back with updates. If we're required to actually get a resolution on something, we will absolutely do that.
I find it hard to believe there'll be a planning committee meeting when we're not talking about this.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any recuse or abstain? Resolution is carried. Thank you.
Continuing on, John gave us hopefully the final update with on the Navigator timeline. Full transition to Navigator, smart card, and mobile ticketing will be completed by the end of this month, and we are conducting an extensive outreach campaign to our customers. The committee had a very good discussion about the way to reach customers. Hopefully you've seen it, because that was my very question when we came into the meeting, and we're starting to, just happened that day that I started noticing things are going on. So, December 31st of this year, sale with magnetic stripe fare media day passes and change cards will be discontinued. January 1st, customers will put fare products on the Navigator, smart card, or mobile ticket application. And March 31st will be the last day that CDTA will accept magnetic stripe fare products on the buses. Hopefully people are watching because that's a big deal. Cash will always be accepted. People don't have to worry about that. So, any questions?
Mark? Just want to know again, when you say cash will be accepted, that means exact change.
Exact change only, correct, I'm sorry.
My experience riding the buses is still that is not being dramatically communicated to the riders yet. I would suggest using loudspeakers for the last 2 weeks of December, just to bring that forcefully to the riders' attention. And it was explained that the drivers will be lenient with the riders for the early January implementation, but it's better if the riders have advance notice that it's not just transmitted but received, so that they're prepared to bring exact change, as well as have good information on where they can get the Navigator cards.
The exact change policy, by the way, exact fare. It's always been exact fare. That's not.
But there are no more change cards.
No more change cards, which have caused more
Oh,
problems.
it has? Oh, I didn't know it was an exact fare.
It's always been exact fare. But the change cards have caused more problems than good. This is a tough process here because you're at the core of our business. Obviously, the exchange at the fare box, the transaction. This is where, though, I will say that our bus operators shine. They've got sort of the pulse of the people. They understand the give and take. And I think as long as management lightly manages it, it will be fine. It will take some time. It's never easy. But the expectations are that it's a process and there's a period of transition. But we all knew at some point, you literally have to, cut one product off and turn one product on. You can't be in this sort of transitionary period forever. We've been in a transitionary period for the better part of a year. So it's time now. It may look a little harsh, but you've got to pick a date, whether it's today, tomorrow, or the next day. And Mark's right. You've got to be sensitive to the consumer and to our customers, and I think we are. And this is where I have full confidence in our drivers, our supervisors, and how they will handle it. Full confidence.
Even still, and I think what Carm is addressing is nobody's gonna be left sitting out on the street without a ride, so.
That's just not, well, we don't do that today. If anything, we make more exceptions than we ought to.
Yeah, so we talked about that extensively at committee, and that was the concern I brought up, that it's almost, no matter what you do, you're gonna find people who didn't see something or didn't pay attention to it, but, you know, again, from the operator standpoint, they're all professionals, but they're going to receive the brunt of any type of issue, because that's where they're gonna be at the time. So there's been a lot of training for that with them to discuss how to, you know, mention it to the customers. If they use a change card, they're mentioned, hey, you know, at this date, they won't be getting these out anymore, or a day pass, different things like that. So we're trying to get everything together. It's gonna be an interesting few weeks.
Mark?
I just wanted to suggest that if you do use the loudspeaker system, that term magnetic stripe media is a little too technical. I would suggest paper fare cards and plastic navigator cards.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let's see. Also, John provided us a report on our bike share, which has been an extraordinary success. It was launched on July 27th with 160 bikes and 40 stations. CDPHP is our title sponsor. That is Capital District's Physicians Health Plan, for anybody that doesn't know. It's an HMO organization. 11,500 trips were taken and nearly 2,500 members joined this exciting new program. The most popular bike hubs were at Hudson River Park, Madison and Lark, and Saratoga State Park, which I guess that all makes sense, doesn't it? Madison and Lark is a little surprising, but a lot of traffic there. So, but there's a lot of millennials in that area also. So, next year we will expand to 320 bikes with more infrastructure capacity. We will build on our success, grow our partnership base, and integrate our navigator card into the process. That is all I have. If there's any questions about the bikes. I said it's been an amazing program. The next meeting of the committee will be held January 25th, 2018, in this building, in this room, at this time. Film at 11. Mr. Chairman.
Stay tuned, right? Thank you, Mr. Sparetta. Any questions for Joe? All right. Governance Committee did
one
not.
question about the bikes.
Yep.
Have there been any significant accidents?
No, we only lost one station.
Yeah, I mean, out of 160 bikes, they were floored. We actually had 2 that, at the end of the day, were losses. And the one referenced the car lost. So they've shown to be pretty strong, sturdy products, and the overage we purchased as part of getting the bikes in the system allowed us to have no losses throughout the course of the campaign.
Okay. All right, Governance Committee is not on the agenda. We did not meet, but I did just want to mention quickly that we are moving the process with Doug Lee's governance report that will come back to the board. That's moving along. We're trying to get a date for the steering committee to come together to review that report with Doug, and also so that the steering committee can prepare for the presentation that will come back to the full board. The staff, senior staff, and members who participated in the retreat with us, along with, we'll invite back our stakeholders who took their time to participate in the retreat with us. So at some point, we'll be asking for a couple of hours, probably 3 hours or so, separate from our meeting, our regular meeting dates, either late January, early February, we're probably looking at now. But we'll poll for calendars to make sure that folks are available. So I just wanted to update you on that because it's been some time since November 8th. It is moving along. The report is lengthy. I think it's about 25 pages without the summary of the slides from the breakout group. So probably be 34, 35 pages by the time you see the final report. So,
yeah, but I don't think it.
nothing earth-shattering.
I don't think it's going to be any surprise.
Yeah.
I think it's everything we talked about needing to do.
In the form of an action plan.
But there needs to be some background in order. You can't just establish it. The first 6 pages are really, well, not 6 pages. There's some background embedded in it.
Right. So, thank you. CEO's report, Mr. Basile.
Mr. Stackrow, thank you. My report is in your packet. I'll try to keep it brief since I think we've covered a lot of ground here. A lot of it is repeated in my report, but you'll know that advocacy kind of lines up with the budget season. We advocate on a couple of different fronts as part of the state association, of which I was president for the last several years. I've been past president for the last year, which I enjoyed. But we advocate with the state association, common theme, common message. And then we advocate our own particular needs and the success of our system with Jackson Lewis, Lisa Morello, and her team. So more to follow on that. Dave makes his schedule available to us with his new schedule. I'm not quite sure how that'll all line up, but whenever there's an opportunity to meet with leadership at the Capitol, we will call on Dave. But if Dave can't be with us, we may call on some of you. As we meet with elected officials who you may have a relationship with, I'll let you know of those. And if you have a relationship, it's always good to have someone with you who knows Assemblyman so-and-so or Assemblywoman so-and-so. It just makes for a much easier and comfortable conversation. Joe has gone on several of those with me, and several of you have as well. So I'll get you some information as that sort of develops. But it's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of detail. But any help you can get is definitely.
And just before you leave that, on the advocacy front as well, just to plant a seed in case anybody's able to do it. APTA's legislative conference is in mid-March. We generally have a few board members who are able to make that trip. It's March 18th, so it's a Sunday, Monday, and half a day Tuesday. It's a couple of days of sessions, and then on Tuesday we generally do legislative visits in DC to meet with either staff or the members of our Senate and House group, just to fill them in on what's going on at CTA and what our needs are. So I'll get more information out to you if anybody can make that. More than welcome, but that's on the national front too.
And it's, I don't think I'm speaking on attorney, but I think it's acknowledged as one of APTA's best or better 3 days. Get together, it's meaty stuff. We hear from a lot of different levels of the federal government, and you get to see the delegation in action, so to speak. We also do visits here in the local office.
And it's 30 degrees warmer down there too.
Yeah, usually a little
bit.
Last year was bad.
It's a bridge. We got snowed out. Thank you.
We talked about Navigator. We talked about bikes, which we kind of put under the mobility management umbrella. The third leg of the stool there is common ordinance for regional taxi services, and there's a lot of progress being made slowly, quietly behind the scenes. Common ordinance has been adopted in Saratoga Springs, and it's introduced to the legislative bodies in Albany County and Troy, which is a first step towards adoption. And by the end of this calendar year, we may have all three. For sure should have two, maybe all three. And then, once the ordinance is adopted, we'll start working towards the common themes and the common goals. So that's all moving forward. Construction updates, I think we mentioned in PO. The membrane and deck repair at the rail station's closed up for the season, but we made, I think, pretty significant progress. We had a lot of rain early on, but I had a great fall and recovered very well. Same at Larkin, Washington, which is probably the second biggest construction project that we had ongoing. Got a little off schedule in the beginning, couldn't totally recover, so it's not what we wanted to have. We thought would be done, but you know, the infrastructure is all done. It's the relocation, actual installation of a permanent station that's not done, but that will be done immediately in the spring. And then last but not least, the control center. Get a minute, take a peek. The big screen is up on the wall, and we're almost ready to start transitioning staff into the new setup. You'll see in the activity report lots of NIPTA legislative meetings, whether they be conference calls or committee meetings. We're trying to get together with everybody and agree on what the ask is going to be. As mentioned in the committees, it'll be a tough budget year. The latest projection at the state is a $5 billion deficit. No one's quite sure yet that number, how real those numbers are, but suffice to say, it's going to be a deficit year. So, you know, where do we fall in that? Right now, the association is seeming to be moving towards a consensus that says that's fine, we got that, but we need to tell our story and what our need is, just like is being done at the MTA in New York City. You know, what is the need and what is the required numbers here long term to fund a robust transit system in Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and points in between. So lots of meetings on that. Jamie and I attended a board meeting at the American Cancer Society to recognize us for our work in the Real Men Wear Pink campaign, which was outstanding. We finished second, but I wanted you to know that they took time to thank Jamie for her work, which was above and beyond the call of duty. There were times when I think she should have been paid by the American Cancer Society for the work that she did. It was above and beyond what would be expected. So they noted it, I noted, and I wanted you to be aware of it. Held our annual Veterans Lunch at the Zaloga Post around Veterans Day. Had about 50 or 60 CDTA vets who served our country, both active employees and retirees. But we also unveiled and announced our half-year program for veterans. And Joe made that announcement. You know, Joe spearheaded that and lit the flame for it, got it done, made sure that staff didn't forget about it, and I appreciate that. And I think everybody appreciated it. I think the appropriate place to make that announcement.
You know, there was a couple of guys that had tears in their eyes. It was one of the better. Those guys and the little kids at the fall festival.
Yep.
It's worth coming to.
And thanks to Mike Rochon for stopping by and spending some time with our folks. They appreciate it.
Food was good.
Yeah. Food was very good. A couple of weeks ago, we just an interesting note. We welcomed a delegation of transportation professionals from China. We've done this from time to time. We seem to be in the pipeline. We have about 20 people from I'll get this wrong. Anhui Traffic Holdings Group. They were here for 2 weeks, touring the country, visiting with all kinds of transportation providers to just understand how we did things and compare it to how they did. So several staff were here, and it was just great to watch their translator, who, you know, you would speak for 5 minutes. He would take that 5 minutes, throw it back at him. I just kept my fingers crossed, saying, I wonder if he's really telling what I said. It's always great. It's a cultural experience. And for them, you know, frankly, to be selected, I always think is a small feather. A small feather.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about New Year's Eve being the last day for the trolley seasonal operation. Just make a note of that. John and his gang will be promoting that with our partners in Schenectady. But last but not least, happy holidays from everybody here at CDTA. You can tell by some of the stuff I write, I spend a lot of time thinking about stuff, which is dangerous. here early in the morning by myself so I can think about this kind of stuff. But we've accomplished a great deal in the last year, a great deal in the last 5 years. It's evident by our recognition as the best mid-sized transit system in North America. That I still don't think we give ourselves enough credit for that. That is not an accident. That is not a gift. That is not something that's happened chance. That happened because of the hard work of everybody sitting around the table, sitting around the room. And I think we're truly blessed by having a great team of people. And we've developed this family-like atmosphere. If you listen to the 3 service awards that Dave talked about, every one of them mentioned that the people who have longevity here stay here because of the family atmosphere. We sometimes fight, we sometimes don't get along, we sometimes don't agree. Whether it be, in our relationships every day or at the board table. I know that, I appreciate healthy disagreement. I think healthy disagreement leads to, a compromised position that's healthier and more vital. So recognizing all that, the cooperative approach to what we do, that's the spirit that we wish you all happy holidays and enjoy the season. If there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. But, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and whatever else that you may celebrate. Hanukkah. I forgot about Hanukkah. Sorry. That concludes my report.
Questions for Carm?
Happy holidays. That's to remind myself.
We have no executive session scheduled, nothing under good of the order. I don't have any announcements. Anybody have anything?
There is lunch outside.
There is lunch outside.
We got slightly delayed, so there is lunch outside.
Upcoming meetings for the board are today, so that one's passed. January 31st, February 28th, and I'm guessing it'll be March 28th as well.
And Mr. Chairman, there'll be likely two meetings in January. One
for Doug and one for labor discussions.
I think we're getting close on the collective bargaining dates.
And thank you for your time on that. We're asking more of your time right now, but it will get better, I promise. I promise. And I too wish everyone happy holidays, happy New Year, be safe, be healthy, enjoy family and friends and all those good things. And we will see you all after the turn of the calendar page. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Do we have to leave?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up there? I want to hear Dominic the donkey. Jesus.
Christmas music.
I usually do.